وكلا نقص عليك من أنباء الرسل ما نثبت به فؤادك وجاءك في هذه الحق وموعظة وذكرى للمؤمنين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Firstly, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We start a new series today, and it's on the Anbiya alayhim salatu wasalam, on the prophets, on all the messengers that Allah Azza wa Jal has sent. Now we're going to start with an introduction today, and then from next week we will start with Adam alayhi salam and continue as far as we can go all the way to Isa alayhi salam bi'idnillah, and then after that to start the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So the Anbiya alayhim salatu wasalam, the messengers, they are the best of all people. They are the best of all people. They have been chosen by Allah Azza wa Jal. They have been selected specifically. They are the best of all human beings. Imagine if you were to select right now in front of, different people have different things. So if you say, for example, all the people who play football, who would they select in terms of having the best of footballers? Then in the eyes of those who support football, they'll be able to say, well, these are the best players, and they'll be able to find some legendary sort of players. All the people who follow or who know about arts and about pictures and drawings and so on, they'll be able to pick a range of people in the past who are the best artists, the best people who have left something in the past. Now this is in accordance to people choosing. Allah Azza wa Jal, He has chosen. He has chosen specifically certain people. So if you were to ask Allah, oh Allah, who are the best of all people? Then Allah Azza wa Jal has told us through the wahi, through the revelation, that the best of all people are the Anbiya, and they are the prophets. So this is Allah the Creator, who is the being, who has created everything, whom we have to go back to, who has told us who are the best in terms of example. Now, one of the greatest things that Allah Azza wa Jal, one of the greatest reasons why He has quoted or He has talked about the Anbiya or the prophets is that they are to be followed. Now, across the whole of the world, you're going to get many people who are going to follow for many different reasons, different individuals. Okay, there are people who will, naturally, Allah has endowed in every single being the gift to follow somebody else. This is a thing that you will see in kids. When kids grow up, you will see all kids, they like to copy. All kids, they like to copy. And having this inside them of wanting to copy somebody else is a gift from God. Because if children didn't copy the people around them, they wouldn't become like any human being whatsoever. They'd become some sort of creatures, some aliens that you wouldn't be able to live peacefully with. But Allah Azza wa Jalla has kept that in children. When children grow up, this thing doesn't grow out of them. Their direction changes. So when we are adults, we also have something inside us. We want to follow somebody. So it's up to you who you want to follow. Everyone in the world is following somebody else, or is inspired by somebody else, or is getting their habits and things molded by somebody else. Everyone, right up to the greatest of politicians, they also have, like a politician might look at Lincoln, they might look at Abraham Lincoln, they might look at others before them, how they run America. And even Lincoln himself, he had individuals who he was inspired by and he looked at. Now Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying that if you want a formula for human beings, for you as a human race, and you want to know the best of all people to follow, then they are my Anbiya, they are my prophets. Now this is one of the main reasons why Allah Azza wa Jalla has told us stories. Now there are many other reasons I'm going to come to why Allah has told us about the Anbiya and about the prophets. Now the prophets are people whom Allah Azza wa Jalla has said, Allahu yastafi min al-malaika. This is Allah Himself who chooses who they are. This is in Surah Hajj, which is the 22nd surah of the Quran, ayah number 75. And He will choose from the angels as well whoever He wants. Rusulan wa minan nasi inna Allah sami'un. Allah will choose first from the angels, and He will have them as messengers coming down to the earth with certain messages He wants to send to the human race, and He will choose from amongst the people, wa minan nas, from whoever He wants. So these people whom Allah Azza wa Jalla has chosen, they are the best of all people in terms of many different facets. One of the greatest things is, when you study the lives of the Anbiya, you can see they are the people who had the greatest connection with Allah. The greatest connection with Allah anyone you find. And it inspires you to say to yourself, well, if I'm giving da'wah, then I want to see, you look at the story of Nuh alayhi salam. You think, wow, this individual, 950 years, and he didn't stop. Allah gave him a life that was way above 950 years. But for 950 years, he continued to call his people to the deen. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He mentioned that in the Quran, in Surah Ankabut. But we know from the sources of the Sunnah that only about 70 people accepted his da'wah. From 950 years of da'wah. Now what does that do to you if you are, and even then, his own son didn't accept da'wah, his own wife didn't accept his da'wah. So when you read this, you get, and you could be any individual in the world and you think, well, I want so and so to accept Iman. You get inspired, you think, subhanallah, if Allah has done that with Sayyidina Nuh, who was one of the greatest prophets, who am I to complain to Allah? And I should take an example of, how persistent he was, in continuing in his da'wah. Anyway, Allah Azza wa Jalla has made these individuals those who will give us the good news of the future, and those who will prevent, to tell us about the evil of the future. No one, He has chosen them to do that. So He has called them Mubashirin and Mundhirin. Mubashirin means those who give good news. Mundhirin means those who warn us from the evil that is lying ahead. And if you look in Surah An'am, which is the 6th surah of the Quran, ayah number 48, Allah said, وَمَا نُرْسِلُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ إِلَّا مُبَشِّرِينَ وَمُنذِرِينَ. I have not sent any of the messengers except that I sent them as people who give good news and those who warn you. فَمَنْ آمَنْ, whosoever will believe, وَأَصْلَحَ, and whosoever will change themselves. Now there's two things Allah said, that you have to believe in what you hear from their lives, and you have to change yourselves in terms of your life. فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. You will have no fear in the next life, and you will have nothing to grieve over. To become a prophet is not something that you can just choose and just one day say, well, I can do the same thing. Because we know that Allah Azza wa Jalla has cut off the whole wahi with the demise of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That's completely cut off. The only thing that remains, which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said on his deathbed, is ar-ru'ya salihah. Is that if you have a good dream, if you have a pious person who has a good dream, and that dream will tell him something, again, that does not become wahi, it doesn't become revelation. But it's for him, a message for him, and he's supposed to keep it to himself or to the individual that it concerns. He's supposed to report it, but again, those individuals don't have to act upon what he says. Okay? They don't have to act upon what he says. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on his deathbed, according to hadith of Bukhari, he said that everything from Nabuwah, everything from the prophethood has ceased, except when a man gets a good dream, or a woman will get that, a very good dream, that might be something from the mubashirat, from the good news that Allah gives them to direct them in their life. Now on this point, what I want to say to you is that if anyone starts saying, there's so many of these texts and emails and messages that go around, like the Imam of Haram, he's sat in front of the Kaaba and he dozed off and he saw the Prophet in his dream and he told him this is going to happen and the Dajjal is coming out and blah 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 blah. And the best part of this message, which is really the worst part of the message, is when they write at the bottom and he said that whoever spreads this message is going to get this much reward, and if you don't, then you're going to get the punishment of Allah on you. And then you start finding work, people who go to work on Monday morning, they start getting the photocopy jammed because of the amount of papers that are coming out of it, right? Photocopying this message. Now, to report something, first is, for you to say something from, a hadith is there. You report from the Prophet ﷺ from a hadith. If you see a good dream or someone's seen it, it's to yourself. It cannot become binding on anyone else. Khalas. That's what the Sharia is. You can't now become an individual and say, well, I've got all this revelation and I'm going to start telling all you people what to do. That's the next thing. Now the other important thing is that even if you see a dream, nowhere, I'm telling you, nowhere will the Prophet now go against his own words which he said while he was alive. Which is that there's going to be no more, Allah's not going to use any human being to send new messages to the earth. So why would suddenly an imam have a dream in which he now is reporting from the Prophet, and the Prophet is telling him that you better tell all people, and you better report this all people, and everyone who gets it better report it, otherwise there's going to be punishment. That would never happen. And if you actually knowingly send that, there is a hadith mutawatir. Now mutawatir is the strongest hadith, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan." Whosoever will lie about me intentionally, فَلْيَتَبَوَّأْ مَقَعَدَهُ مِنَ النَّارِ. He should find his final destination, and he should seek for his final destination in hellfire. So to report, again, when you get hadith, please verify the hadith on your phone before you send it out. There are sometimes fabricated ahadith that people send, and you just want to send it out because it's a good message, it sounds really good, but did the Prophet ﷺ say? You have to be very careful in this. So anyway, we're going to break off for the adhan, but what I will do is that there's a whole introduction, and I'm going to use in this a few books. One is the famous Allama Ibn Kathir's book on the Qasasun Nabiyyin, on the stories of the Prophets, and there's this other book which I found very beneficial myself. It's by Doctor, or it's by, you could say, Shaykh Afif Abdul Fattah Tabbara. Shaykh Afif Abdul Fattah Tabbara. It's called Ma'al Anbiya'i fil Quran. It's with the Prophets in the Quran, in the Noble Quran. And what this book does, which many other books don't do, is that it concentrates on the lessons that you can derive from the actual stories of the Prophets, which is the most important thing. We're not sitting here just to tell stories. We have to derive lessons from there. And I'm also going to use a third book where it comes to the geographical locations of where the Prophets were. There's been a very good study done from Riyadh on the actual geographical locations of all the Prophets. So we're going to use that as well. Inshallah, I'll bring that in from next week. Jazakumullah khair. We'll carry on after the Isha prayers. Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We continue from before the Isha Salah. So the Prophets, there are some that are known as Anbiya, Nabiyyin, and there are those who are known as Rusul or Mursaleen. Now, one has the 3 root letters of Nun, Ba, Hamza, Naba'a, and the other one has the root letters of Ra, Sin, Lam. Now, one's called a Nabi and one's called a Rasul. One's called a Prophet, as we say it in our, we try and say Prophet for Nabi, and we try and say Messenger for Rasul. Now, the difference between the two, they've said, is that Nabi, for example, some have said that Nabi is somebody that Allah has told him that he is a Prophet, and they've said that he is someone who has to follow the message that God has told him. And sometimes, so he is known as a Nabi, and he has then been told to try and tell a few people to follow whatever he's been told to follow. That's one. Now, according to this one, what would happen is that the Nabi himself, the Nabi is the one. So if I start again, sorry. Nabi is the one who has been told that he has to follow something himself, and the Rasul is the one. The Rasul is the one who has been told to tell others about the message that God has sent them. Now, this is a weak sort of view. A strong view is that Nabi is the one who was told to follow the message that the prophets before him were following or were told. So he himself is not given an actual risala or a message from God. He doesn't come with a new legislation from God. But the Rasul that was there before him, he is the one that he was the Rasul. But this new prophet will be somebody who is known as a Nabi but not a Rasul. So for example, Lut alayhi salam, he was around the time of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim alayhi salam got a message from God with a new legislation. So Lut alayhi salam was following the message that Ibrahim alayhi salam came with, but Lut alayhi salam himself didn't get a new legislation. So therefore Lut was a prophet and Ibrahim alayhi salam was a Rasul. So this means whenever you find a person who's a Rasul, he's also a prophet, he's also a Nabi. So Ibrahim alayhi salam in this case would be a Rasul and he would be a Nabi as well. Whereas Lut alayhi salam would only be a Nabi. So this is another understanding. And this is a strong opinion. But another opinion is that the Nabi simply is somebody who's just conveying some news. And the Rasul is someone who's conveying a message which has a larger picture than news. So for example, if I was to tell you some news from before, if I just told you, this is the news, this is what's happened, I'm just conveying to you news that has already happened. Whereas as opposed to me coming to you and saying, you know what, you guys, this is what needs to be done. This is the plan. So I'm not just giving you, I might be giving you news from the past, but I'm now giving you something extra. I'm saying, now this is the plan forward. This is what we have to do. So a Nabi would simply, according to the third view, a Nabi would be somebody who is just simply giving you news of what has happened.